Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In this series, we will be connecting with industry leaders from the sports and technology domain, where we will simplify sports and technology for all of you through the minds of amazing leaders and through their expert understanding in the fields of sports and technology. We will be shaping the future of sports. We will dive deep into discussions about innovations driving this industry, from AI to cloud, from cybersecurity to sustainability. If it is sports tech we are talking about, today we have a very interesting guest with us, Dr. Michael Weatherly. He is from Sports Innovation X. It is the forefront of sports strategic planning, marketing, and consulting, pioneering a unique approach in the industry. Six serves as a technology scout, connecting innovative companies and professional and collegiate sport teams and athletes. Six also has a podcast. It has a weekly TV show, Decide to Dominate, as every Tuesday at noon ET on Goodview Network. The show is inspired by DJ's book, and Decide to Dominate features DJ and Michael interviewing professional and college athletes. Sports Innovation X is leading force attending the NFL Draft, Combine, and Radio Row for 3 consecutive years to stay connected with key industry trends and connections. They are also proud partners of national school coaches, supporting their mission to promote safety, education, and excellence in youth sports. Now, I would like to introduce the podcast guest, that is Dr. Michael Weatherly. He is the founder of C5EDI, Sports Innovation X, Echo, Edoso Winery, Wet First Inc., and Atlantic Frontier. These were so many, so I have written it down and I'm going to speak from the note. So sorry if I sound monotonous to all the viewers. So sorry for that. And he is the CEO and co-owner of Williamsburg Winery, co-owner of Norfolk Admirals Hockey, and he has been awarded in 2024 as Coastal Virginia's 150 most influential leaders. We welcome you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I know it's a mouthful.
No, but I love it. I love it when there is so many things. I love to say that. I love to speak about a guest, always.
Yeah, I always say I'm definitely a serial entrepreneur, and or I just get bored really easily and start new businesses a lot. I promised my wife that I wouldn't start any new businesses for the next few years, so I'm trying to focus on the ones we have right now. But I love what I do. It's very fun.
Absolutely. So, like today, he would be talking about, the new era of sports marketing and what are the innovations happening in the ticketing solutions. So, once again, I welcome you, Michael. And my first question to you is, like with your background into sports marketing, how has the shift or how are you seeing the shift from the traditional to the digital first marketing, and what are the changes, what have happened over the past years?
Yeah, so and again, apologies that DJ Dozier, my partner, couldn't be on, or maybe he will jump in. He's actually taking his son up to Penn State, so he's a track athlete. DJ's a former, Penn Stater himself. Scored the winning touchdown in the national championship game, played the NFL and then MLB, so very unique, and he's always fun to have on the show. So hopefully he'll be able to jump in. I think he was having technical difficulties on the drive, but if not, maybe we can have him on down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your first question, a lot of change, right? So that's what we do at Sports Innovation X in general is there's a lot of technology that's coming into the space. It's very overwhelming for athletes. It's very overwhelming for the universities and even pro teams who have multiple resources to help. And so that's one of the things that we do as a business is help weed through all the mass technology, do the homework, do the research, try out the technology ourselves, and really try to hone in on what is beneficial to the athlete and or the team. And it's not just, I know the focus of the day is on marketing, but it's even with like wearables, data analytics, green energy solutions for stadiums. It could be anything as far as what we focus on. But as far as that question goes, and trying to keep my focus on the digital marketing in general, especially for today's talk, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for this what everybody has with them all the time. I'm part owner, like you mentioned in your opening remarks, with the Norfolk Admirals hockey team. The Admirals is in the East Coast Hockey League. We're an affiliate of the Winnipeg Jets and the Carolina Hurricanes in the National Hockey League. And so even one of our partners is Ticketmaster, and so I could give you a real world example. My mother-in-law is going to the game next week, and she was like my age, and I know we're going to have lots of different people watching this from the older generation all the way to kids. At the end of the day, and you have a pretty wide audience there, but it's interesting for my age group and where I am, and I just celebrated my 46th birthday yesterday. So I remember what life was like before the
Happy
internet.
birthday.
Thank you, thank you. But at the same time, so I can relate, right? Like our generation can relate with people who like used a phone book to look up a phone number to call somebody, but also we know how to work all technology, and are now with the revolution of AI and everything that's coming. So we're in this like unique kind of like between two worlds. So it has really been interesting. So like my mother-in-law, for example, just trying to help her like download the app and or just get the ticket on her phone so she has the barcode so she can scan and go to the game. And just this morning, she was like, "Well, can't I just get a paper ticket?" I was like, "Well, we can. I guess we can print one out, but it's really easy." And then I've got my 15 and 13-year-old kids who can do anything on a phone, and oftentimes are even helping me and or can help my mother-in-law download it and do everything. So it's crazy. The transformation has been wild over the last couple years in general, with just all things marketing, fan engagement, ticketing, social media, obviously, with how to grab attention and how to convert that attention to sales at the end of the day, which is always the key when it comes to social media. There's teams using virtual reality now, and even taking the phone and doing things at events like creating gamification, because the product on the ice or the pitch or the field is usually almost always going to be good, right? Like these people have trained their whole lives. I think where the teams are really differentiating themselves right now was okay, well, what happens before the game, after the game, between the periods, at halftime, and how to really engage the fan. And even not, when they're not at the stadium, because not everybody can afford a ticket to go to a game these days. I mean, ticket prices are everything's more expensive, right? And so it's like, well, how do we capture and maintain that fan engagement at home? Because oftentimes the biggest fans are the ones that can't afford to go to the game, but they know all the players, they know all the transactions, they know the history, the legacy of the team and franchise. So I think those are some of the things that owners and managers and people in the decision making kind of spot for the teams are that's what they're thinking of right now. Just some of the many things that they're thinking of, right? Besides putting a good product on the field.
Absolutely. So, like, when you were talking about fan engagement, like, what are the ways to monetize it in the
Mm.
digital first approach? And, what are the marketing techniques which can be used these days or in the coming times?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, the key is like I mentioned, the conversion, right? So how do you convert engagement to dollars? And that's kind of what you're getting at, right? And so there's a lot with like NFTs, and I'm still getting my head around that. I mean, I totally understand what NFTs are, but I don't know, maybe maybe I'm just still on the outside looking in on that one. But it's how do you take an experience and turn that into a dollar, right, for the organization, but at the same time make it feel like it's value added for the fan. And so we see a lot with like tokenized memorabilia or wearables, as in like, hey, this was a I can buy a hat or a jersey and I can take my phone and I could scan it and then I get instant access to like that player, as in, oh, there's DJ. He's popping in,
There is
maybe.
DJ, yes.
Perfect timing talking about players. Uh, DJ, you're on mute. I don't
He's
know if
on
you can
mute.
hear us, but give him a second, see if maybe he can
The best
connect.
part is he was able to join.
Yeah, no doubt. DJ, there you go. Hey, can you hear
All
us?
right, can you hear me?
Hey, there we
Absolutely.
go. It's the true
Hi,
star of the
DJ.
show.
I had to. How you doing? Good morning.
Good,
Again, I had
good
to actually.
morning.
I
I'm
had
gonna take a
to.
stab and say you had to use one of your kids' phones or something.
No, actually, I used my phone. I just had to uninstall a couple of apps.
Oh God.
There you go. So we were just talking. We kind of just answered that question about tech and the generations, and so perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Excellent.
She kind of already introduced us, but DJ, do you are you cool if DJ does a real quick intro of himself?
Absolutely. I would love that.
Okay, go ahead, DJ.
All right. Good morning. My name's DJ Dozier. I spent many years playing. I say playing sports, being involved in athletics, and was fortunate enough to go to college, Penn State University, on a full scholarship to play football. Um, I was there to play football and baseball, but baseball didn't work out there at Penn State. And so I was fortunate enough again to get drafted into the NFL and spent 5 years in the NFL and also spent a number of years in professional baseball as well. And after athletics, was involved in consulting, which in many cases involved the sports industry. And now running Sports Innovation X.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we welcome you, DJ. And even though, like, you are traveling, you made it, it means a lot to us at the whole team of Sports First and all the viewers.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you again for having us on. We appreciate it. DJ, the question as you were dialing in, and I'd be interested to kind of hear your feedback on this too, but he was asking, how are these teams and or companies, small businesses, right, in the innovation space, how are they taking fan engagement and then converting that into dollars? But at the same time, obviously providing value to the fan. And I was just giving the example of some of the companies that we've talked to, both domestically and internationally for us in the EU and even in Asia, that are taking technologies where, you have like a jersey, for example, and you can scan that jersey and then you get instant access to maybe a message from like the goalkeeper or the striker, and it's only for that fan that bought that jersey. Um, and so that's where you're taking a merch item, in that case, a hat, a shirt, whatever, a sticker, and you're creating additional value for that, right? So you take a dollar sticker, now maybe it's worth $20 because you've got access to that particular player. So that's one of the things. A lot of like, gamification around who's the best fan. So, you're like in the club and you're getting like reward points because you're going to the game, or you've registered that you're like watching the game, you're providing feedback, you're taking surveys, and then you're getting points, and therefore, rewards are coming off that. And obviously there's a lot that can be done from a financial kind of perspective for the team or the small business in that case that's helping. It's because you can create some kind of gamification in there. So that's the question I was just answering, DJ, when you had dialed in. I didn't know if you had any other kind of examples or ideas where we've been seeing that going on.
Yeah, no, those are great examples, especially using fan engagement to give the fans more access to areas where traditionally they haven't have had access to. Um, that being that be that being said, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I
No, that's
got
all right.
GPS.
That's okay. That's okay, DJ. That's fine.
But to add to that, what's important, I think, for team owners and executives is also to give the fans not just access, but to increase the level of entertainment with some of that access.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that happens, yeah, because they're going to a game, it's all entertainment. And so when the team can install more technology to give the fans basically more entertainment. For example, during halftime, of course, in halftime in any event in a stadium or arena, there's always something going on. What's what seems to be happening now with technology is fans are being given more access to that entertainment, or become part of the entertainment, or at least more part of it. For example, you may have in a basketball game halftime, you may have a half court shot or some sort of free throw contest. But using technology, you can get more fans involved. In other words, they're not getting out of their seat. It's something that has something to do with their phones and access to the board or to the scoreboard, or any other unique technology that they can utilize. What we're also coming across is, again, talking about entertainment, is not just the fans that are in the arena or in the stadium, but there's also technologies now where they have the capacity to distribute that event out beyond not just not television, but for example, into gaming systems where young people, maybe adults as well, have headsets at home or some sort of gaming system, and through specific technology, they can get access to that event.
So, like, DJ, I wanted to understand one thing. Like, as you are seeing uh, major trends which are shifting, so what do you see it into the ticketing domain, basically? I wanted to understand that from your angle, because you are into the industry from such a long time.
I'm sorry, you said what type of trends?
Like
I
on the ticketing side, like
Gotcha.
ticketing in general. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think the simple answer is, there's less and less paper, less and less held in your hand, other than a phone. So
Yeah.
now you can utilize phones, and I mean that's really the simple part of it. And of course, that in and of itself automates the entire process.
Yeah, I was just get an example I can think of too is one of the companies that I mentioned that we know in the EU, and then there's some in the US as well. There's one in Italy, one in Switzerland, and a couple in Asia where even that merch becomes your ticket. So via it's kind of sewn into like your scarf if you're going to a soccer game, right? Or your hat. You could just scan your hat and literally like walk through. A lot of like this autonomous systems and even like the grab and goes on food and beverage where you can just like walk through and get what you want. I mean, COVID changed the world too, right? Like we haven't talked about that. COVID definitely made a lot of changes. But DJ, I mentioned before you got on that my mother-in-law is going to the hockey game next week, and she was having a hard time with her ticket and wanted to know if she could just print it and get a paper ticket. We don't really do that anymore, but we can if you need one. So I think that reemphasizes your point on how things have changed over the years for sure.
Absolutely. And to add to that, of course, my mom would ask for the same thing.
Right.
But they're also getting to the point where, they're being able to go with the digital ticket, they can take customer service to a whole nother level. At least if that ticket holder is willing to share their personal information. For example, the advertising may be more personalized. They may know from the past that individual purchased pretzels or peanuts or some, a hot dog drink, and so they would offer or can offer that that combination, or some level of combination based on personal information.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on that, I mean that gets into the data capture, right? Like all the data that's being captured about the fan and making it more personalized, which is at some argument a little creepy, but at the same time kind of cool, depending on how far it's taken. And then there's the selling of the pre-packaging and selling of that data to third-party vendors too. So that gets into like the revenue generation side, with all your, based on the demographic of the fan, to DJ's point, what they bought in the past, when they shop, types of games they've gone to, any and all kind of data can obviously be packaged and sold in multiple different ways as well.
Absolutely. So, like, when we are talking about the marketing, the ticketing, so, like, what role does social media play? Because it is a very important and integral part in today's life. So, how can you market certain products or certain athletes or coaches, or for that matter, any leagues or teams? Like, how it is, like, what was there before and what has changed now?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I like a stat that I don't think gets talked about a lot. And if you look at this, it's really interesting. There's been a lot of studies on this where social media, fan engagement, and even just followers, if you take raw data and look at followers, but then if you look at views and social media, a lot of times the number of butts in the seats is equivalent to the amount of social media like presence. And I don't mean like a one for one. I just mean like the team that has the biggest following and the team who has the smallest following, if you look at trend on attendance at games and or viewership, they're almost like in accordance on a chart. If you line like the least amount up to the most amount up for teams. And so social media is a big deal. I mean, you could argue that it's a one for one where um, you know, because the team has a better record, they've got a bigger following. Not necessarily the case. A lot of times the teams that aren't even that good might be a little bit higher up here. I think a perfect example for that, and I don't know for non-US based folks, but even if you're not, this is an interesting case study, is the Savannah Bananas. Those guys and that gentleman in general, who I haven't met, but I've read all of his stuff and I'm following pretty closely. Like they have changed the game, literally and figuratively, with what they've done on the marketing, ticketing, um, driving revenue and using social media. TikTok is what they used mainly to blow up like they did, but now Instagram, all the platforms. But TikTok literally like from zero to millions of followers, and everywhere they go, they sell out everywhere they go. And now they're building like their own league. It's not just one team anymore. They've got the couple teams that they're playing against within their own league that they've created. So social media is huge. It's huge for driving revenue. If done correctly, it's good for sponsorships because putting like my hockey, I guess, helmet or hat back on. It's big on sponsorships because that's a lot of times what drives revenue, especially for these teams that don't have like the big dollars like the National Football League does or English Premier League. They really rely on corporate partners and corporate sponsorships. And now you've got name, image, and likeness with NIL, with colleges, universities, which is a big thing. So it literally has transformed the way all sports operates in the last few years. And I think honestly everyone's still trying to get their arms around it and figure it out. So
Okay.
Yeah, those are great points. If I can add, you know, dovetail off of the social media aspect. What I find interesting with the social media is it's becoming less and less of an option for corporations to utilize social media. And not only that, it really effectively gives the company or the team the ability to go direct to the consumer. And with that in mind, of course, as Mike said, direct sales. So direct marketing, direct sales uh, could really increase the bottom line and lower the cost of acquiring a customer. So I think that you know that's a major shift in from a marketing strategy. So now you can go in-house as long as you have a good crew that can manage social media and get to the customer or consumers across the board, and tell the story, create some messaging, and win some business.
Okay. So, like, as we're talking about the social media part, I it's a second part question. Like there is live broadcasting happening. So how can a team or a league or coaches take advantage, or how can they market in today's time? The real time thing. How can they do that, and how can they benefit from that?
Yeah, no, it's it's an interesting question. A lot of these are really good questions. I think, and before I lose the thought, I'll answer your question. But before I lose the thought, I think piggybacking off what DJ said is there were people who use social media, and to DJ's point, it's like it's not an if, it's a when now. Like you have to do it. Like, and if you're not, you're left behind. I think AI is the next version of that, right? So there's going to be people who are using artificial intelligence, and then there's people that are going to stay away from it and refuse to use it, and the gap will widen pretty quickly. But I think your second your follow-up question is people are still trying to figure that out. And there are some companies that we know in the tech space that are trying to tackle that. And one of the ways is to really tie in the broadcasting with the fan engagement. So you've almost got like an overlay on your screen where you're directly communicating with the fan. They're taking surveys. I would say the best industry that's doing this right now, in my opinion, and we don't really dabble in the space too much, is like the online betting. So you've got prop bets, and they're doing that in real time based on like whatever's happening in game. And so when you think about marketing, sponsorships, and how to interact with the fans, I think that's kind of like the next big thing, if you will, for what needs to be figured out. And we do know a company that has they're based out of the UK, and they're working in soccer right now, or football, depending on where you are in the world. For us in the US, it's soccer. But and they're trying to break into the US space, but that's what they've done. They've created an environment where you can directly interact with the fan on screen, real time during game, and that's a great marketing opportunity to sell, obviously, to get your brand, your logo up there, to know that there's eyeballs not only on the game, but on the screen in that one spot, and that they're interacting with the actual broadcast itself. So,
Absolutely. So, like, Michael, I think you have done a research, right, on fan engagement?
a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. I
Little
mean,
bit, yeah.
yeah. I mean, my dissertation wasn't on that, but for my PhD, but yes, I've done a little research there.
Absolutely. So, like, related to that, I had a small question. It's like, how can teams leverage behavioral rights, like insights, to create a more immersive game day experience?
Hmm. Um, Yeah, I don't know if I completely understand the question. Maybe can you rephrase it a little bit? Sort of.
Absolutely. Like into the consumer engagement market or the fan engagement market right now, like how can you focus on the game day? Like, specifically if like today it is NFL, or
Mm,
like it is the game day today. So
right.
how is that changing? And, how is the shift from back then to today?
Yeah, a perfect example. So I feel like we're throwing lots of good examples out today. In my opinion, the team, and I won't even call it a team because they built a culture around the team for this, is the group out of Wales, the Wrexham football team. So I don't know if you're following that story, but there's a small, obviously football slash soccer team in Wrexham, Wales, which I've been to. I've been there to the stadium. I've been to the game. I've been to a couple of games over the last few years over there in the UK. But they have created a culture around the brand, so it's not just the game. And like historic companies from back in the day, the Yankees for baseball, the Lakers for basketball, like, it's how do you create a culture around your brand? And even more specifically now, I think a big cultural shift has been it's not just about the team, it's about the player. So a lot of the younger generation, they don't necessarily follow the team, they like the player or the players on the team. And if the player switches teams, they switch teams, right? And so that's a very different kind of mindset when you think about trying to capture fan engagement. So back in the day, hey, if one of your stars left, no big deal. You're still the Lakers, or you're still the Bulls, or you're still the Yankees, or whatever. But now it's like, no, Juan Soto went from the Yankees to the Mets. So now you've got a lot of Yankee fans that became Mets fans like overnight. And so you've lost some of your fan base, right? So that puts a lot of impetus on the team and the management, the ownership to make sure that they're bringing top tier talent into the organization. But then at the same time, we all know team sports, not one player or a couple players win a championship. Got to have a good team. And so I think that's an interesting dynamic going on right now. And that gets into your game day question of Wrexham, going back to my kind of initial response, is they've been able to, they went from never hardly ever being anything on television to now they've got their own Netflix or I think it's on Hulu or Amazon, one of the streaming platforms. They've got their own show. They've got multiple seasons. They're now being broadcast and live streamed. They've been able to attract better talent, getting better players, and therefore a better team. And now they've won and they've moved up leagues, and now they've got this huge fan engagement. And following it helps that they have a multi-billion-dollar movie star in Ryan Reynolds, who they brought on board to help to own the team and to help kind of run the ship. And then Rob McElhenney, who's the partner there on that one. They're just funny on camera and seem like really cool dudes. Never met them, but I'm sure they're fun to have a beer with. But I think that's how you do it. I think you have to create culture. You have to increase brand recognition and visibility, and it's a crosswalk now between getting the right people, but also having a good team. So, DJ, I don't know if you wanted to piggyback on that one. That was my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll answer the question precisely, but definitely, my thought in terms of some of the shifting for game day has been really, teams and the sports industry recognizing from a fan's perspective that fans actually are more interested in group opportunities. And what I mean by that is, of course, tailgating has been around for a while, but I know at Penn State one of the aspects of game day is sort of trying to bring the tailgating atmosphere into the stadium, because there's some tailgaters that actually enjoy spending the majority of their time outside the stadium because they're in a community or among other peers. And so rather than sitting down in a seat, they're watching a game standing up or watching a game together in a at that tailgate. But taking that sort of thinking into the stadium, there's group seating. There's even at the Norfolk Admirals, they have the suites where groups can come in and watch the game. Of course, stadiums have suites, but some of the newer stadiums also have areas where large bodies of people can watch the game simultaneously together. And so that's what I'm recognizing.
Yeah, I mean, great answer, DJ. And you got my brain spinning on, we obviously get to meet a lot of really cool people, and we're doing a lot with Capital One Arena right now in Washington, D.C. So with the Wizards and the Mystics on the basketball side, the Capitals on the hockey side. And they're going through complete renovation of their entire facility. They just made a huge announcement around Christmas time. It's a multi-billion-dollar renovation. And we've seen this with like Minnesota. DJ obviously played for the Vikings, so they got a beautiful facility there. A little bit old. I'm old. I mean, it's new, but it snows like during the game. They can make it snow. It's amazing. And with Capital One, they're bringing in this new like elevated food and beverage perspective where they're going to have like a sommelier on site who's going to help you with like your wine pairing. So to DJ's point, it's not just about the game anymore. It's about before the game, during the game, after the game. And that's really like elevating that experience for the fan, and creating that sense of community, which is a key word that DJ used, I think, because that is how you capture more fans and then more dollars, obviously, that come with that sense of community.
Absolutely. Like, when you're talking about innovation into this industry, like what is the role of 5G, IoT, AI, VR? Like there are so many things fans are
Yes.
exposed to. So like, what is the next thing? Or in the next 5 years, like what do you envision? Because you are into
Yeah,
the innovation segment.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think it's it's all the known unknowns that we don't know. And I think I mentioned AI earlier. I feel like that's going to be a big piece. Um, you said VR. I think, XR, where you've got like this mixed reality will be a big thing. DJ had touched on earlier. We're working with a couple of small businesses right now, and one of the NBA teams on trying to bring the game into the gaming world. And that's, with like your Xboxes and PlayStations of the world. And now that's like a global phenomenon where everyone's connected. They've got that sense of community. There's that word again, where, they can play together, but in real time with the game. How do you create this environment where I, as a person, can feel like I'm in the game almost like in real time? And that's like the golden opportunity, right? Like if you can figure that out and make that as an immersive as possible. So it's like it's real. I feel like I'm in the game. Ready Player One, there's a couple movies, when you look at like sci-fi, right? But like sci-fi is a window into the future. And so when you look at some of these things that seem like it's so far-fetched, I mean, well, that's what we thought 20 years ago, and here we are doing all these crazy things. So I don't know, DJ, do you have any thoughts on that? Like as far as like some of these futuristic things or vision on where the teams or the businesses are going?
DJ, I would like to
Yeah,
understand from a athletic, like from an athlete perspective, like how are
Mhm.
the athletes taking in all the new, like, the AI, the VR and everything coming in from an athlete point of view?
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely want to answer that. But let me say this in regards to what Mike was saying, and I think it's important, is the teams and organizations are, in short, finding ways to extend the experience. And the reason they want to extend the experience, of course, is to further build their brand and sell their merchandise. Because the lifetime value of a customer, if you have someone that's a season ticket holder, that's great. So they spend $5,000, $10,000, whatever the cost is. But if you can get that same individual or family to spend multiple dollars on merchandise throughout the year, that obviously increases the lifetime value of that consumer. Um, and now back to your question about athletes and AI. I mean, there's no doubt that technology is changing the way that, for example, athletes learn or re-examine their performances. Uh, as Mike was mentioning, one of the things that's happening with a basketball team that we're NBA team that we're working with is some of these newer technologies using volumetric uh, camera or cameras is allowing a greater level of analytics of a player's performance. And so it's actually gotten to a point now where the athletes are expecting that level of analytics and in order to be able to, well, I'll put it this way. It's so important now where teams, I know at least one of the teams that we're working with have actually hired a coach, and the title of the coach is an analytics coach. So AI is most definitely affecting, in a positive way, I think, you know, the the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
So, like, when you were talking about the biometric, so I wanted to understand, what are the challenges or the opportunities right now into the in-stadium experiences when we are trying to make everything contactless?
yeah, I mean, on the food and beverage side, it's huge, right? So, in the obviously, we're also in the food and beverage business with some of the companies that you mentioned at the start of the show. But the ready to drink options, trying to streamline, and when you think about it, like labor costs. So labor costs is more expensive when you think all this like contactless. I ring my thing up, I show up, boom, it's there. DoorDash, Amazon, it gets delivered in a same day. DoorDash, my food shows up. I mean, trying to create all this like contact, which is, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little old school. I really I like having conversations like we're having right now, right? Like there's a lot to be said for that, especially when it comes to marketing, business development, sales. But Yeah, it's going to be huge because you're saving labor costs. You're getting more people or fans through the pipe to get to the cash register at the end of the day. So all of those things are going to be important and critical. But at the same time, making it so the fan feels like they're getting value and that they're not just being like herded through. The stand, if you will. So I think it's important.
Okay. So like when we are talking about all the positive sides happening in the technology domain, I wanted to understand like are there ticketing frauds happening and how to prevent that, or what are the measures being taken right now, or when AI is into place, how can it be prevented in future?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like my perspective on that is I feel like from a security side, there's some pretty good technologies out there and you know, they're doing a pretty good job on that. You've got obviously, distributed ledgers with blockchain, and there's all kinds of solutions from a security standpoint in the background. Obviously, fraud is always going to be an issue. But at the end of the game, or at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's about fans going to the game on that side when you think about tickets. And so it's not really something that you can, I guess you could kind of flip and try to make money on that. I'm trying to like, from the crook perspective or the bad guy. But I don't, I feel like the industry in general is doing a pretty good job when it comes to ticket fraud, security, sales. I feel like they got a pretty good handle on that.
Okay. DJ, do you have anything like to add on to this?
I didn't really hear the question. It was it
Yeah, we're
regarding
just talking.
security?
Yeah, talking about security and fraud, ticket fraud, security in general. I was talking about blockchain, and just kind of what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I do know of a couple of companies that have been attempting to get into the stadium or venue space at the stadium level, using a greater level of, I guess, uh, verification. Um, but yeah, nothing more to add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think another thing too is just like the security. It's a balance between trying to get the fan as close as possible to the athlete, but at the same time create security for the athlete. So that's
Absolutely.
not really on the ticketing side, but it's trying to create a balance there where you see people running out on the pitch and trying to get their autograph or post on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. So
Or just a hug from the athlete.
yeah, exactly. They just want to be within the presence of those people. Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will ask one last question. Like, as we are discussing about all this, like the live events, the digital streaming, so there is a blurred line between that. So how can teams maximize, revenue from both the digital or the virtual and in-person experience? How can teams do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting with the streaming platforms that have come on board now and everybody's kind of jumping on the bandwagon, even your, legacy broadcasting networks and everything, because that's just kind of where where the world has gone. But I think, again, going back to the phone is, everyone's got the communication right there in their hand, they're watching on their screen. And so it's like how to monetize that, how to figure out a way to monetize that without at the same way making it feel like the fan has to pay for everything. And that's where I think, and DJ, I think, I don't know, my word of this whole call today coming out is like community is finding a way to create an environment where fans can engage with one another. They're not paying for it. They're getting access. They feel that sense of camaraderie, that community, where they're talking to one another. And, but then at the same time, taking that and then like elevating it and converting it to dollar signs, whether it's additional paid for access. There's a company I thought of this earlier, and I know this is the last question, so I'll slip it in. DJ and I go to the Super Bowl every year, or we go to Radio Row, and you mentioned that in your opening, which is like the media entertainment day. It's fun to go to.
Hmm.
We get interviewed a lot, and But a side event that goes on during Radio Row or that week leading up to the Super Bowl is called the NFL Pitch Day. And those are companies, kind of like a Shark Tank type thing, where they're trying to work with the NFL. And one of the companies that, or the company that won this year, they were all based around fan engagement. And it was a way for how to get the fan tied into the player, and using and in a digital way via an iPad, via phone, via computer. I get my 30 seconds one-on-one time with the athlete. I can get a digital signature from the athlete. And I think that company is really onto something, because that is the future. And that is really how companies looking to enter the space are going to be able to monetize. I think it's a way for the teams to create better fan engagement with their fan base. And at the end of the day, you're giving the fan what they want. You're giving them better access, right? And this company had figured that out, and they've created a platform to do so. So, DJ, kicking it over to you if you want to build on
Yeah,
that.
I think part of the well, one of the main challenges has been, and they're 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 getting there in terms of technology, but I don't think it is there yet, and that's speed and capacity. For example, you can be outside of a stadium. Inside the stadium, there's several thousand fans. You're outside the stadium, and it's still very difficult to either make a phone call or
Mm.
or even send a text message. So that question, that issue still has to be solved in order to maximize, all the streaming opportunities, especially in and around a venue. Um, I know that many years ago, Verizon had the issue where the back then Verizon actually owned NFL Mobile, which gives you mobile access to NFL games and information. However, inside the stadium or outside or in and around the stadium, you couldn't access it because there was not enough capacity. And so I think that, and we're actually talking to companies that are increasing the speed enormously. So it's going to be interesting to see the timing of that. But I think, that issue being solved really opens up a whole nother level of business and opportunity for fans and certainly the teams.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Like now we'll move on to the next segment. That's the rapid fire round. Michael, we'll go with you first.
Okay.
Okay, I'll ask you a few questions. You'll have to be quick in answering. No
Okay.
thoughts. Okay? Till that time, DJ, you can just hear and understand. Then you will have to be very quick. Even while in the car, you'll have to be quick in answering.
Okay.
Okay.
We got it.
Okay. Michael, my first question is, what's your favorite sports marketing campaign of all time? One liner.
Oh, I would have to say some of the beer ones, like the Budweiser, the Super Bowl, like some of those Bud ones, which I don't even really drink that beer, but for some reason those stand out to me around the Super Bowl. They've lasted a long time.
Okay. One buzzword in sports marketing that needs to go.
Oh, um, I don't know. Can I pass on that one and come back? I'll have to think about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's the strangest fan engagement idea you have ever heard of?
Uh, these are tough. I don't know. Like,
That's the reason it is rapid fire.
yeah, I don't know. There's some crazy stuff out there. DJ and I see a lot of crazy things on a daily basis. One doesn't jump out to me right now, but I'll try to think about it. Maybe I'll get back to you.
Okay. If you had to sell out a stadium in 24 hours, what's the first thing you would do?
I would call the guy from Savannah Bananas, because that guy could sell out a stadium in an hour.
Wow.
He is all his ideas, genius. That's who I'd call. I'd call that guy.
Bang on. If you could create a new sports marketing slogan, what would it be?
I'm gonna go with something with built around community, because that's what DJ was talking about today. And to me, that is really what it's all about. That culture, that community. I would build something around that.
Okay. Who would play you in a movie about your career in sports marketing? That is an
Oh,
easy one. Okay, Michael.
well, I was talking about Oh my gosh, the guy from Wrexham who I'm drawing a blank right now because you put me on the spot. But I would love to have him play me because I feel like he has my sense of humor. Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds. There you go. I'll have Ryan Reynolds play me in my movie.
Okay. And if you could have a dinner with one athlete, not DJ, who would it be? Past or present?
Oof. One athlete. Wow. Cal Ripken. He was shortstop for the Orioles. One of my favorite players growing up. Would love to have dinner with him.
Okay. DJ, are you ready for your rapid fire?
I am ready.
Okay. What's the most exciting sports venue you have ever visited?
I'd say Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. AI powered ticket pricing or blockchain based ticketing. Pick one for future.
You're gonna ask that again.
AI or blockchain for ticketing? What's the future?
Oh, blockchain.
Okay. If you could add one futuristic feature to stadiums, what would
Mhm.
it be?
Wow.
I like your questions better than mine. Go ahead.
Multiple escalators.
Oh,
Interesting. Interesting.
okay. Okay.
Okay. What's your dream sports event to attend with a VIP pass, which you have not done till now?
Oh,
Oh, U.S. women's soccer.
Okay.
oh, oh.
Biggest misconception about ticket sales in sports.
um, they're cheap. I don't know.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the next segment. You both did a good job. DJ was better, but
DJ was better, hands
DJ
down.
was better.
I feel like I could answer his questions way better. I had a couple tough ones. Okay.
Okay.
The only question I would have changed, Mike, of yours was uh, when she asked about the how do you fill a stadium in 24 hours?
Uh-huh. What would you have said on that one?
Free food.
Free oh yeah, there you go. That's a good one. Yeah, anytime you're doing the like 50-cent hot dog night or whatever, dollar beers, $2 beers, that's food. People love food.
It's
Good answer.
full. True, true, true.
Good
Okay.
answer.
Now there is only one question. You like both have to answer that in 30 seconds. What is a future of AI into sports marketing and new innovations in ticketing?
I guess I'll go first, DJ, and then you can
Sure.
jump on. I think I've said this a couple of times today. I think we're still trying to figure that out. I mean, the AI in general is doing so much. I see, like being able to ask a question and to get like a design, a drawing. So when I think about like that side of the marketing aspect of you know and then there's the whole piece of like the analytics and trying to get using AI to better determine like who's your appropriate fan or your customer for what you're trying to sell. And then on the ticketing side, obviously, taking all that data, packaging it up, and doing all the homework to figure out how to sell more tickets, right, at the end of the day. But then there's even the out of the game day, and taking the AI from a marketing perspective and figuring out how to better build that sense of community. So that's how I would answer that. But I mean, it's a constantly evolving and moving target that we're all still trying to figure out. So it's going to be really cool to watch and be part of it.
Okay. DJ,
DJ.
Yeah,
your yeah.
I would add to that the the ticket is, obviously, especially now that it's moving into the digital space, it's a report card.
Mhm.
It's a scorecard. It's a marketing card. It's no longer, as Mike said earlier in the call, the the collection of data is not only vital, but it creates more business opportunities. So, you know, that ticket is no longer just a ticket; it's a report card.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Michael, DJ, for your time and wonderful, insights on the topic. And thank you, DJ, you were able to make it even though you were traveling.
Absolutely enjoyed it.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. I mean, we had a good time and looking forward to seeing your show and continuing to follow you guys are doing. If you ever have anything, just let us know. Happy to help.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining. Please share this video to all your friends, families, and the people who love sports technology. That was Michael and DJ sharing their insights. Let's meet in the next episode. Until that, stay inspired, stay curious, and keep exploring.
Thank you.